Hey and welcome back to The Revolution and a brand new WWE 2K22 video, as moments ago WWE and 2K unveiled a brand new WWE 2K22 trailer as part of the Royal Rumble celebrations, featuring a first look at several female superstars in-game, including Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Charlotte, Flair and more. To be sure you don't miss out on any of our WWE 2K22 content, be sure to hit that bell icon and subscribe to the channel. You can also head on over to our official website www.revolution.com, where you'll find a breakdown of all of today's news and more. Before we break things down, let's take a look at that brand new trailer. I won't lie, there's some pretty damn awesome treats in today's trailer, and I can't wait to get a better look at some of the women we have on show here. We start the trailer out as always with Rey Mysterio making his way to the ring, this time with a really great close-up shot of Rey's model and a vast improvement to the textures as part of Rey's attire. We then get a look at Sasha Banks performing what looks to be her taunt from the previous 2K installments before Roman Reigns sets up for the Superman punch. As said in one of our previous videos, it looks like Sasha is sporting her Backlash 2020 attire, which we now get a better close-up look of. We then return to Rey Mysterio as both Rey and Sasha seemingly set up for a 5-star frog splash, with Rey hitting his rendition of the move on Humberto Carrillo. I have to admit, the visual of Rey mid-air is probably one of my favourite shots of the entire trailer, and I just hope one day we get to see the highlight reel capture shots just as stunning as this. Earlier in the month, fellow content creators Vibe revealed a brand new gameplay feature which allows players to hold the ring ropes and position themselves before hitting a springboard move as one of the options as part of the new feature. Could this be that very feature in action? As we begin to turn things up a notch as always, we get a glimpse of the beginning of Drew McIntyre's entrance before Rey charges in with a 619 to Dolph Ziggler. We then switch back to some more entrance animations, starting out with The Rock, who, quite honestly, hands down, has probably the best model I've ever seen. For the last few years, fans have been crying out for an update to the People's Champion, and 2K have certainly delivered here. From the sweat to the lighting to the lifelike details in the tattoo, and quite frankly, just the model itself, everything looks incredible. From one icon to another, we have our very first footage of Becky Lynch in WWE 2K22, with a better look at not only Becky's model, but also her attire. As previously speculated, it looks as though Becky is indeed sporting her Royal Rumble 2020 attire from a match with Asuka, and I can't wait to see how that attire holds up in-game. It's hard to tell whether or not Becky has a new entrance animation this time around, or if the different camera angle gives the entrance a brand new feel. But given the man has only just returned to WWE TV in recent months, I wouldn't expect too much. We then get a quick glimpse of Stone Cold Steve Austin before switching to one of my personal favourites, Asuka. As a huge fan of Asuka, I have to say I'm absolutely loving the update to Asuka's model here as part of the evolution into her Kabuki warrior phase, with her attire like Becky Lynch's taken from Royal Rumble 2020. Something about Asuka's sinister grin with a green flowing makeup just gives me the chills, and I really can't wait to get a better look at not only her entrance but her attire itself. I'm also praying that the Kabuki warrior version of Asuka also means we get an updated version of the green mist that Asuka used early on in her heel run. We then get another quick look at Big E's model in this year's game before switching to a newly updated version of Brock Lesnar, with Brock sporting his new hairstyle from SummerSlam of last year. One of the keynotes from Vibe's videos earlier in the month was that entrances have a completely different feel and look more TV accurate than ever before, and judging by the Brock footage here, I would have to completely agree. Not only does Brock's model look amazing, but the trons and the lighting bring everything together in some absolutely stunning footage. Following Brock, we have a quick glimpse of Riddle in this year's game, sporting his Royal Rumble 2020 attire before Ricochet and the Queen Charlotte Flair make their way to the ring. Judging by the positioning and the pose of Charlotte Flair, it looks as though the SmackDown Women's Champion has a brand new entrance animation to go alongside her stunning new Thanos-inspired attire from SummerSlam of 2021. For all I'm a huge fan of the traditional robes Charlotte has worn over the years, I actually love the more tight-fitted and detailed robes we have here, and I love how the gold accents reflect the light. Given that both Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair's attires hail from SummerSlam 2021, I would hazard a guess and speculate that Nikki Cross, or should I say Nikki ASH, will also receive her SummerSlam 2021 attire as part of the triple threat matchup. On first glance, I would probably have to say this might actually be my favourite model of Charlotte Flair to date, with so much more detail in Charlotte's face this time around and a finer detail on the hair. Speaking of best models to date, we also have a quick glimpse of both Seth Rollins and Shinsuke making their way to the ring, with both men receiving huge improvements on their models from previous installments. Monday Night Raw's visionary Seth Rollins, like several of the superstars, seems to have a brand new entrance animation in WWE 2K22, which fits more in line with his current TV persona. The huge difference in Seth's model from the November hitlist trailer is clear to see, with so much more detail in Seth's model this time around. It's hard to tell whether or not Nakamura has a brand new entrance animation, but Shinsuke is sporting his white leather and crown from his recent run as King of the Ring over on SmackDown. We then switch back to some more in-ring action as Jimmy and Jey Uso of the Bloodline double-team Xavier Woods with a running forearm, while one brother and Shield Woods can't escape the strike. We then once again return to Sasha Banks as the boss pulls out a slew of moves unusually outside of her arsenal, including a standing Spanish fly and a variation of Ronda Rousey's Piper's Pit. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever actually seen Sasha perform either move, regardless of how great they might look. The sequence gives off another look at Bayley's attire in this year's game, as well as the updated hair physics for WWE 2K22, which seems far superior to what we saw in 2K20. We then see some ladder action in a similar fashion to the segment we saw earlier this month with The Miz and Seth Rollins, this time with Rey Mysterio and AJ Styles battling out on the ladder, with Rey hitting the diving neckbreaker to Styles as the pair leap outside of the ring. Up next, we have a new look at The Undertaker in WWE 2K22 as he makes his way to the ring in his usual epic fashion. Whilst essentially it may not look like anything groundbreakingly new when it comes to The Undertaker, it does look awesome to say the least, and if nothing, it's a better version of something that already looked great to begin with. What I will say is that WWE 2K22's new arenas frame the entrance perfectly, with the moon casting light behind Taker to show off the updated model in all of its glory. We then switch back to Roman Reigns, who once again sets up for the Superman Punch, this time taking said move out on former WWE Champion Big E. Following on from the in-ring action, we take things backstage with a series of clips showing off not only a new backstage area, but some new weapons to boot. This time around, it looks as though the interview area has been completely repositioned, with a section this time residing near the new steel platform area as seen in the Hitlist trailer last year. We can see that as in previous years, the backstage area is branded with the Raw logo, but hopefully this time around we can switch things up, which would be especially handy when it comes to creating your very own show. It's unknown as to whether or not you can interact with the many items scattered backstage, but there are several lighting rigs and light boxes toppled over in the background, which does hint that at least they have physics. We can also spot several pieces like a sink, an EMP patch, cars, as well as the usual vending machines and tables, which would all make for pretty cool OMG moments if they can be interacted with. We see Drew McIntyre attempt to hit rival Bobby Lashley with a steel chair, with Bobby blocking the attack before pulling out one of the new weapons in WWE 2K20, a WWE Performance Center hockey stick. Like Bobby, Drew also reverses the attack and sends Bobby to the floor with a strike from the weapon as we leave the backstage portion of the trailer. Following on from the backstage segment, we see Big E and Kevin Owens battling out inside a steel cage, with Big E getting the last laugh as he sends Owens pummeling to the mat. Up next, we get our very first look at Alexa Bliss in WWE 2K22 as Rhea Ripley sends Bliss flying over the top rope through a table to the outside. It looks as though Bliss is sporting her Money in the Bank attire from last year, where Bliss competed in the match alongside Asuka, Liv Morgan, Naomi, Natalya, Tamina, Zelina Vega, and the Money in the Bank briefcase winner, Nikki ASH. Like several other superstars, whilst Alexa is sporting the correct attire, she is showcasing a different hairstyle, which could indicate that Bliss has a separate model or attire, much like Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler before her. Whilst we don't get a great look at Alexa in this instance, if you pause it at the right moment, you can see Alexa's been upgraded since 2K20 and looks far more detailed and less cartoonish in the face. One thing I am hoping for is that Alexa does have multiple versions when it comes to the pigtails, just in case Bliss reverts back to her goddess persona as teased the last few weeks on Raw. Moving on from Alexa and Rhea, we see Ricochet and Sami Zayn battling out in the ring alongside what looks to be a brand new referee. At first glance, I did think the model looked very similar to that of Angelo Dawkins from Street Profits, but I can't be 100% sure. If that is the case, it would possibly hint at the return of a special guest referee, but with no official confirmation, it's hard to clarify. There may be no real indication here, but I honestly hope this means we have the chance of having a female referee for WWE 2K22, as we haven't had a new referee in quite some time. Not including the zombie referee, of course. Ricochet deflects in with a dropkick as he lands on his feet in a superhero style before we get our very first look at Damian Priest in WWE 2K22 as he makes his 2K debut. Priest can be seen indulging in his inner dark side as he takes out Sheamus with a pair of ladders as part of a Money in the Bank briefcase match. As the trailer begins to wind down, we see Edge hitting Seth Rollins with an execution in what looks to be a Hell in a Cell match, as well as Rey Mysterio performing either a springboard arm drag or DDT in what looks to be part of the Rey Mysterio showcase. The clip confirms the addition of WrestleMania Goes Hollywood as part of the start of the feud, which would later lead to the iconic Custody of Dominic Mysterio match. We then quickly fade to Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre as Brock sends Drew McIntyre to Suplex City before getting another look at Becky Lynch and Asuka. We see the Royal Rumble rivals competing in the ring as Becky hits her manhandle slam on Asuka before Sasha once again enters the frame with her rival Bayley, who she hits with an arm drag. The closing moments of the trailer see Roman Reigns hitting Big E with a spear before seeing both The Undertaker and Rey Mysterio recreating their entrances. I have to say I'm absolutely loving some of the updated visuals this time around with WWE 2K22, and for the most part, more superstars look better than ever, especially when you look at models such as The Rock's. Not to mention that much needed update to the backstage area, which has needed a refresh for quite some time now. I just hope we get to interact with the majority of the items which we can see hidden in the background. On first glance, I absolutely love how the women's roster is shaping up so far, especially with so many of the women sporting several of my favourite pieces from over the last few months and years. There are so many amazing looking models, and I can't wait to see for myself how they look when we finally get our hands on the game. Trying not to be too biased, but so far my favourite looking superstars would have to be Asuka, with Charlotte and Sasha Banks tied at a close second, with, quite honestly and obviously, The Rock definitely being my favourite male superstar. I mean, how could it not be? What I will say though is that there are some red flags when it comes to seeing clips like Sasha performing moves not usually found in her range, as well as using spots that we only saw a week or two prior. I understand wanting to preserve some mystery for release, but I would have loved to see some gameplay with the new controls and gameplay at the forefront. Would it have made for a visually stunning trailer? Not likely, but it would have whet our appetite for a few more weeks and given the fans something to tide us over. I'm not going to get too critical because I actually really enjoyed the trailer, and as far as the women go, it gave us some really awesome looking spots and enough to tease us with the likes of Alexa to keep us wanting more and more. So before I go on any longer, I want to know what you at home make of today's trailer and what was your favourite segment or superstar. To be sure you don't miss out on any of our WWE 2K22 content, be sure to hit that bell icon and subscribe to the channel. You can also head on over to our official website www.revolution.com, where you'll find a breakdown of all of today's news and more. Until next time, I've been The Revolution. Happy Royal Rumble.